Welcome to the News Hour. It is the final night of the Republican National Convention here in Milwaukee. Donald Trump is set to accept his party's nomination for president, marking his first public speech since the attempt on his life this past weekend.
That speech will wrap up a week messaging a united Republican Party, one that spent days reminding voters about Trump's strengths and the party's vision for America. Meanwhile, Democrats are facing an array of questions about the top of their ticket. Lisa Desjardins has been following it all. Lisa?
That's right. Tonight is the big night here, of course, at the convention, but it follows the other marquee night of the week where the vice presidential nominee, J.D. Vance, came out. And throughout the night, we saw rhetoric that swung between talk of strengths to talk of sensitivity to some sharp words. Overall, where we are today is a Republican Party trying to build momentum for their new presidential ticket.
Join me in giving a warm
this morning, a newly minted nominee.
The next vice president of the United States, Senator J.D. Vance.
VP candidate and U.S. Senator J.D. Vance, fresh off his address to the Republican National Convention, made his first stop to a key Trump voter group, Christian conservatives, speaking at a Faith and Freedom Coalition breakfast.
There are all of these small little miracles, and if you look for them, you actually see them.
The night before, Vance brandished his working class roots.
America's ruling class wrote the checks. Communities like mine paid the price.
And told stories of growing up poor in Ohio, raised by his grandmother, Mama.
Now, my mama died shortly before I left for Iraq in 2005. And when we went through her things, we found 19 loaded handguns. We wondered what was going on, and it occurred to us that towards the end of her life, Mama couldn't get around so well. And so this frail old woman made sure that no matter where she was within arm's length of whatever she needed to protect her family. That's who we fight for. That's American spirit.
An introduction from his wife, Usha Vance, emphasized their unique story.
It's safe to say that neither JD nor I expected to find ourselves in this position. But it's hard to imagine a more powerful example of the American dream.
The Vance rollout capped a day of sharply contrasting tones on the convention floor. A 98-year-old World War II veteran brought tears to delegates' eyes, appealing to shared love of country.
America is an idea, but I believe America is much more than that. America is our home.
But minutes later from Donald Trump Jr., a dark message of fear.
All hell has broken loose in America, and it's impossible to hide anymore.
There were other emotional waves, including an American family whose son was taken hostage after the Hamas attack in Israel.
Imagine over 9 months, not knowing whether your son is alive, waking up every morning, praying that he too is still waking up every morning.
But the crowd may have been most transfixed by a heartbreaking segment with Gold Star families of service members killed in the Afghanistan withdrawal, highly critical of President Biden.
Now we have another son serving in the Army. And we do not trust Joe Biden with his life.
They read, and the convention floor repeated, the names of the 13 military personnel killed. Some lifted up, others threw punches.
Yes, indeed. This morning I did walk out of a federal prison in Miami.
Former Trump administration advisor Peter Navarro served 4 months over refusing to testify in front of the January 6th Congressional Committee. He blamed the justice system, but he also raised the temperature against undocumented immigrants, calling them
a whole army of illiterate illegal aliens stealing the jobs of black, brown, and blue-collar Americans. They put them right on your front doorstep.
Migrant flow at the southern border has decreased in recent months. While it remains historically high, PolitiFact and others have debunked the idea that there is any kind of invasion, as well as the idea that there's a resulting job shortage. At the convention, members of Trump's family tried to show his softer side. Donald Trump Jr. turned the mic over to his teenage daughter, Kai, before starting his speech. Trump smiled as his eldest granddaughter told the crowd about her, quote, normal grandpa.
A lot of people have put my grandpa through hell, and he's still standing.
Yesterday, Trump made his first known comments about the shooting to a private crowd chanting, In video obtained by PBS News, he credited his close call this weekend to divine intervention.
Honestly, I think you appreciate God even more. I really do, because something happened.
But he also talked political shop about recent poll gains, indicating he wants President Biden as his opponent.
But the worst polls are very good. So we don't want them to be too good, because if they're too good, maybe this guy doesn't run. We want him to run, and I say that, but I'm also willing to take on second and third and fourth.
And as Trump prepares to take stage tonight, President Biden is off the campaign trail at home in Rehoboth, recuperating from his COVID diagnosis.
And back here on the convention floor, the signs show the difference in some of the messaging from yesterday. This one, Make America Strong Again, maybe part of the unity proposal. But then look at this one that was all over the floor last night. Mass deportation now. Obviously something that some see as vitriolic. Very different, sharp, sometimes soft tones we saw on the floor yesterday. Amna, Jeff?
Lisa, you mentioned we heard from Senator Vance speaking a lot about his biography last night, but what do we know about his stances on the issues that matter here?
That's right. It's important. Let's take a look at where Senator Vance is on the issues exactly. Obviously, he does not have a long political career, but here's what we know, especially since he ran for the Senate. First, on the border, Senator Vance, as with the sign I held up, would launch large-scale deportations on Ukraine. He strongly says he would end U.S. funding for that war. Let's talk about the 2020 election. He has said that he believes it was stolen. How about January 6th? He has said that he would not have done what Vice President Pence did on that day, and instead he would have blocked the Biden certifications of some slates of electors and added more slates of electors, sending the contest to Congress itself. Now, let's talk about abortion. This is something that I want to get into a little more detail on. There's some positions here that sometimes he's gone a little back and forth in, but overall, most recently we know that Senator Vance would support a national 15-week ban. He has said that reasonable exceptions should be allowed for that, including the life of the mother, but it's not exactly clear where he stands on exceptions for rape and incest. He's sometimes cast doubt on that concept, saying two rights don't make a wrong when talking about an abortion exception for rape. And then finally, he would ban the mailing of abortion pills. This is an area where some conservatives love him. This is a place that wants abortion restrictions in general at the Republican convention, but this is something that Democrats think could help them in swing areas, especially in the suburbs where they may not want as tough abortion restrictions as Senator Vance does.
And Lisa, as we mentioned, Donald Trump is set to accept his party's nomination tonight. What should we expect to hear from him tonight?
Well, we know a lot about how the former president speaks on the stump. He can often go off script. We understand that maybe he's going to speak for about an hour, I'm told, for sources. Now, that may or may not include applause lines. I'm also told that he has been revising his script up until today. And that it could go longer or shorter. Some around him think that it would be better for him to go shorter. This is really the prime time address and maybe one of the key moments of the campaign. What he says tonight will probably define him and also define the ads that Democrats use against him.
A lot of people here eager to get their message out, like that gentleman who came behind you to show off his T-shirt. He's now gone. But Lisa, you've been looking at what Republicans have been saying on the stage here, the messages being conveyed. What about the topics that we're not hearing about? What should we know about those?
Amna and Jeff, I think it's notable that we haven't heard that much about abortion in this Republican convention. That is unique. That is usually a central core unifying theme. Of course, this is in the days after the Dobbs decision, after Roe v. Wade was overturned, which was the goal of many here. But when you talk to delegates here, as a group, they still want a national ban. That's something that former President Trump has said he doesn't think is a good idea. So there is divide in the party here, and they know that it's a difficult political issue for them as well. It's something I've heard the least about, and I've certainly never heard less about it at any Republican convention than this one.
And Lisa, let's talk about the Democrats for a moment, because as we speak, President Biden is facing growing pressure from top Democrats now to exit the race over concerns about the party's fate come November. Walk us through the latest news.
I can report that in the past few days, in the past week, Democratic Senate Leader Chuck Schumer told President Biden of concerns by other senators that he cannot win and that it could help Democrats in deeper ways. Now, Schumer's office has said very clearly, no one knows about the conversation. No one can say exactly what Schumer thinks except Schumer himself. But I can tell you with confidence that he did express the concerns of the Democratic conference. As Laura has been reporting, or Laura Barron Lopez, these days right now are very critical. And I'll tell you, this convention's watching right now. They don't mind the sense of chaos in the Democratic Party as they put in their 2 new nominees for 2024.
All right, that is Lisa Desjardins. Lisa, thanks so much. Let's turn